You know how every time you think Amazon warehouses can't possibly get worse? Well, here at Amazon, we take that as a personal challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, strap in. This one's a doozy. You've heard the stories. Impossible quotas, non-existent bathroom breaks, workers collapsing from heat in the summer or freezing in the winter. Basically, people treated like robots. And then something happens that makes all of that look tame. Because what went down inside Amazon's PDX9 fulfillment center right here in Troutdale, Oregon, it isn't just bad, it's inhuman. An Amazon warehouse worker died on the job in the very warehouse you see behind me. And while he lay dead on the cold cement floor for over an hour, workers were instructed by management to continue doing their job around his body. In fact, we were instructed to simply don't look. Now, this incident actually happened about a month ago, but hardly anyone heard about it at first. The story only started gaining traction after a reporter stumbled onto it while doom-scrolling the Amazon employee subreddit. And thank God they did, because let's be honest, if nobody says anything, this motherfucker would be all the happier to just let the story die right there on the warehouse floor next to the dead employee. But your boy Chon, I'm gonna fill in the gaps. So let's get into it. Recently my coworker collapsed and died on the warehouse floor at work. And what did management do? Immediately stop operations? Show some basic humanity? No. They told workers to just walk around him. Yeah, you heard that right. Step over the corpse, Karen. Prime Day waits for no one. You can't make this up. This isn't some dystopian short story. This is what happens when your life is measured in packages per hour. Workers say they were told to look away, keep working, to not talk about it, because of course nothing kills productivity faster than acknowledging death. Now, this account comes from a report by the Western Edge. I'll link the full article in the description if you want to read it yourself. But the short version, this wasn't chaos or confusion. It was business as usual. Employees, or associates as they call us here, were going through our normal shift when a worker collapsed on April 6th. A heavy thud against concrete echoed through the loading dock and people turned to see a man lying on the ground completely unresponsive. The conveyor belts kept moving, packages kept rolling. My coworker Sam reports seeing a body laying lifeless just 20 feet away. Some employees stopped in shock, others weren't even sure what they were looking at yet. However, it was instantly clear that this wasn't your typical workplace injury. Something was seriously wrong. Now, the deceased wasn't some anonymous NPC in the background.
That felt rude.
This was Frank, a well-liked employee. A blue badge, a friendly face whom those familiar with described as always there to greet you with a warm smile and hello if you saw him in the break room or passed him out on the floor.
Howdy, we got donuts.
Frank was a tote runner, one of the most physically demanding roles in the building. These are the people hauling stacks of bins as tall as they are, over and over up and down the warehouse aisles. And if you've ever been inside an Amazon fulfillment center, then you know those aisles can stretch the length of a football field. And on a side note, while Amazon is busy raising your prices, cramming more ads into your videos, and charging extra for features that used to just be included in the regular price, they've also cut the number of tote runners in the warehouse. So the people still there, people like Frank and myself, we're doing even more work. For the same pay, under the same pressure, with the constant threat looming over our heads that if we don't perform to standard, we can easily be replaced. But hey, America, baby. Ain't that America? We're squeezing every last drop out of workers as just part of the business model. What are you gonna do, right? Daddy Bezos' fourth yacht isn't going to pay for itself. So back to the story. When Frank collapsed, the warehouse didn't stop. The conveyor belts continued rolling like nothing out of the ordinary had happened. My coworker Sam was right in the thick of it. I'll let them describe the scene.
Yeah, it was chaos. By the time I realized what was happening,
Shannon's already there trying to resuscitate Frank. She's performing chest compressions and she's crying.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Come on, Frank. Stay with me, Frank. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Totally freaking out, of course. And I can tell she's getting tired and could use some help.
Can I get some help? Please.
Meanwhile, everyone else is just kind of standing around watching, not really knowing what to do.
What's wrong? Haven't you fools ever seen a dead body before?
So right as I'm about to go over there, I see that new supervisor, Megan or something. The cute blonde who hasn't totally had her soul siphoned out by management yet. Well, she's just standing there all teary-eyed like a deer in the headlights, not knowing what to do. She looked like she was in shock, staring at her Kindle. She was probably asking the chatbot how to respond. So I asked her, "Can I help? I know CPR." I'm trying to explain to this bitch that I was a lifeguard for 5 years.
Yeah, you totally could have helped.
Right? But you know what she says to me?
What?
She says,
No. It has to be management or the safety team. Please get back to work.
that is a real quote. Get back to work.
Damn, that's cold, homie.
Right? So I'm telling her, no, I need to go help because I can see Shannon's about to gas out.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Those chest compressions are exhausting. I'm looking at Megan and I can see she feels bad. She's got tears in her eyes, but you know these managers are basically human chatbots themselves, so she's just repeating herself.
Please get back to work. Please get back to work.
Like for reals. At this point, we still don't know if Frank's dead. He's just bleeding out on the ground and needing assistance, and here I am offering to help, and my manager is just like...
Just turn around and don't look. Come on, let's get back to work.
That shit's crazy, I say.
Bruh, that's messed up. Can you believe that? Can we just stop for a minute to think about how wild that response is? Like, imagine if you worked in an office or something and Karen from accounting in the cubicle next to you drops dead. Karen? You good? But your supervisor is just like,
Ignore the smell. Get back to work.
that would be insane, right? But this is Amazon, where CPR apparently just means continue packaging regardless. Because here, you're not working with people, you're working around them. And sadly, this isn't even an isolated case. This fulfillment center was previously named in a Reveal investigation as one of the most dangerous warehouses in the country. I'll link that report in the description. Now, to wrap this story where Sam left off, the whole incident was just handled atrociously. Frank hit the pavement at approximately 1:45 p.m. The next 10 minutes were pure confusion and chaos. It sounds like while Sam, Shannon, and others were working to assist Frank, management mostly seemed to be standing around with their heads up their asses and telling everyone to get back to work. And according to this Western Edge article, while all of this chaos was happening, the first 911 call came at about 1:55 for my girl Latoya. The dispatcher was coaching Latoya and Shannon over speakerphone on how to use the defibrillator. Meanwhile, the supervisors were more concerned with keeping everyone else on task.
Come on, let's get back to work. Come on now.
And at the same time, a second 911 call was being made by my boy RJ, who described a horrific scene.
911 Emergency Services. What's your emergency?
Hello, yes. We have an associate here who I believe is probably dead. This person does have extensive blood coming out of their head. He is very blue-looking.
For the next hour, employees were instructed to continue fetching totes, picking items off the shelves, and loading trucks for delivery as Frank lay dead in the middle of the floor, and management figured out their next steps. News of the fatality quickly spread through the building, but workers say top managers did not immediately halt operations.
Y'all think they're gonna let us go home early?
So for over an hour, work proceeded as usual while Frank's corpse lay there ripening on the concrete, and we were just instructed to work around him.
Yeah, it was so messed up. Remember you and I tried to pay our respects to Frank and that asshole supervisor Rob immediately put the kibosh on it?
That's right, yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to run.
Hey, get back to work!
Bro, have some respect. Our coworker just died.
Yeah? Well, the packages haven't died. He'll still be dead when your shift's over. You can sing then.
Yeah, he wasn't playing. God forbid we take a moment of silence to honor our own dearly departed, not when there's packages to load. I mean, an associate literally dies and they don't see it as a tragedy. It's just a temporary dip in productivity.
Disgraceful. But that's how they do it here. At Amazon, the workflow doesn't break, only the people do.
Amen, brother. And speaking of break, it wasn't until the end of our afternoon break at 3:45 that management finally decided it was a good time to send everybody home. Almost a full hour after EMT arrived and removed Frank's body. The whole thing just couldn't have been handled worse.
Listen up. We're shutting down operations for the day. Everybody get your stuff and go home. We'll keep you updated. We expect to be open and running again tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.
Well, damn. I guess we're off early.
All I know is they still better be paying me for this shit.
So that was pretty much it for the day. Let's just recap this timeline for a second here. At 1:45, Frank drops dead in the middle of the warehouse. Everybody freaks out, but nobody really does fuck all for a full 10 minutes until 1:55 when the first 911 call is made. Then for some ungodly reason, it takes a fucking hour for the paramedics to arrive, but at 2:45 EMT shows up and wheels Frank's corpse out of the building. And as you can imagine, that was pretty traumatic for us to witness, but luckily we had this stellar management team who was there to keep us on task and just be like, alright, back to work everybody. So work continued for a full another hour until our afternoon break at 3:45, at which point one of the suits up in the E-suite must have looked over the stats and realized that we weren't being our normal productive little drones, perhaps as we processed the trauma of the afternoon. So they finally made the call at 3:58 to send everyone home, and that's when we were cut loose for the day. Now, to Amazon's credit, they did promise us we'd be paid, and eventually we were, but that process was handled about as gracefully as Frank's death. At the time this article was published a week later, numerous employees still reported not being paid and having to call HR themselves to argue for reimbursement. Classy as always. So in closing, I've got a couple thoughts. First off, it appears Frank suffered a medical emergency that led to his death. Most likely a heart attack, which caused him to collapse and crack his head on the floor. But the heart attack is actually what did him in. Frank also wasn't in the best of health, so it would be unfair to place the blame for his death entirely on Amazon. Realistically, something like this may have happened sooner or later regardless. But Amazon absolutely deserves blame for how they handled the immediate aftermath. Management actively prevented medically trained employees from administering aid while waiting for EMTs. We'll never know whether the outcome might have been different had they allowed Sam or anyone else to help, and that is inexcusable. Though of course we already know the excuse. Legal liability. Now, all of these distribution warehouses and Amazon fulfillment centers specifically are dangerous, but this particular fulfillment center in Oregon has the worst injury rate out of 23 Amazon distribution centers in the region. Per the Reveal investigation report, they found that more than a quarter of employees at this PDX-9 warehouse had to file an injury report with OSHA for an injury obtained while on the job. And public records show that OSHA has received at least 2 complaints in the past 2 years about excessive heat inside of the warehouse. Now, for a little context, Oregon's got this reputation for being some ultra-liberal hippie-dip state, but as someone who's lived over half my life here, I can tell you the reality's a bit more complicated. Yeah, Portland is progressive, no question there, but nearly half the state's population is crammed into the Portland metro area. Once you get outside the city, the vibe changes pretty fast. The joke's always been that Oregon is basically just Portland surrounded by Alabama, and honestly, that's not entirely inaccurate. Outside of a few other population hubs like Salem, Eugene, and Bend, most of Oregon is wide open land, small towns, and rural communities. We've got one of the most beautiful coastlines in the entire world, where your boy Chon grew up, but you can't even drive there from Portland without feeling like you've crossed straight through West Virginia. We call that coastal mountain range the Oregon Appalachia for a reason. And if you head an hour east of Portland, just beyond the Columbia River Gorge, welcome to what locals lovingly call the Oregon Outback. All this to say, outside the city, it gets real country real quick. And there are absolutely parts of this state where rolling in unannounced after sundown might just earn you an uncomfortable encounter with Cletus and company. Boy, you sure do got you a real purty mouth. Fuck off, Cletus. Now, the reason I'm telling you this, and why it actually matters, is to drive home the point that while yes, Oregon is technically a blue state, and corporate media loves portraying us as some radical leftist utopia full of libtards, with our LBGTQ governor and pot shops on every corner, the reality is a lot less progressive than advertised. We're not governed by Bernie Sanders or AOC-style leftists. No. Our leadership is mostly your standard neoliberal DNC corporate Democrats that nobody's particularly excited about. They're decent on social issues and personal liberties, but I don't think anyone's confusing Oregon with Denmark anytime soon. At the same time, our so-called liberal leaders always seem more than happy to sell us out and bend over, spreading their cheeks for corporate interest. Being better than Republicans shouldn't be enough to keep getting elected. After all, that bar is so low it's basically buried underground. And while conservatives love whining that Oregon isn't business-friendly, the truth is our higher corporate tax rate is almost meaningless when massive corporations operating here barely pay it anyway. Who gives a shit what the tax rate is if you exempt the companies making billions while dumping the burden on small and mid-sized business instead? But please, don't ask conservatives to think. Their brains aren't built for that. The fact is, Oregon is an extremely business-friendly state for Amazon and other massive warehouse distributors. Take Prologis, for example, one of the largest owners of industrial land in the Portland metro area. They own these massive freight warehouses and lease them out to corporations like Amazon, helping to create the infrastructure for this entire machine. And our state laws, our governor, and plenty of local politicians are more than happy to roll out the red carpet for these out-of-state mega corporations. We let them shape policy, manipulate tax incentives, and exploit both Oregon workers and Oregon tax code. Also, politicians can brag about job creation. But hey, it's jobs, right? Even if those jobs are borderline sweatshop conditions that might literally kill you. If Tina Kotek gets to hold a press conference bragging that she created 1,500 new jobs while Bezos opened another fulfillment center, then you better believe she's gonna do it. And a few dead Franks and some OSHA violations, well, that's just the cost of doing business. As grim as what happened to Frank is, I honestly can't think of a better example of how the billionaire Epstein class and their corporate machine truly see the rest of us. We are not human beings to them. We are cogs, replaceable parts. Our deaths, our trauma, our suffering, none of it matters if it interferes with profit margins. Our lives and well-being cannot be allowed to disrupt quarterly earnings. And if you see these comments from Amazon workers themselves, you'll quickly realize that sentiment isn't exaggeration. It's reality.
Yeah, I noticed that people get hurt all the time for some reason. About a month or so ago, someone passed out while doing rebin, and another time I watched an older woman fall while walking.
From what I know, it was a heart attack from being overworked and overheated. Velen split his head open and took Amazon almost 20 minutes to call 911.
Probably came from ruthless, grueling hours of work for $21.50 an hour and trying to get vet hours. Rest in peace.
Truthfully, I now have even less respect for our leadership than I did before, which I didn't know was possible. It makes me feel more ashamed to work there knowing that people can drop dead and we have to carry on knowing it doesn't matter to the higher-ups, and everyone is replaceable.
I used to work at that facility. Frankly, I'm unsurprised by this. I've worked a lot of jobs, and none of them were anywhere close to the level of dystopian disregard and alienation as that place.
That building is known for having a large amount of injuries. At least they had the decency and respect to send everyone home.
And finally,
I tote run regularly, and lately, from what I've heard, that's what he was doing. The last couple weeks they've cut back staffing for the job, which has led to a handful of regular runners stepping down from the role. I continue to do it, but it is the most physically demanding job at the site I've done, and I've been here for 10 years. There's no reason why a job that requires 15 miles of walking while pushing tanks of totes is run on a minimum amount of people. It's insanity. This job is literally represented by safety in numbers, and those who do not ever do it are the ones who budget for the role. Shame on those who make these calls, because this 1L network-wide, and this is what it's come down to now. My site had plenty of VOA crash-outs about it, and we cannot be the only ones who have done so.
Frank deserved better. Every worker in that warehouse deserved better. And if a man can literally die on the floor of one of the richest corporations on earth, only for business to continue like his life was just another inconvenient delay in productivity, then let's stop pretending this system sees us as human beings. Because it doesn't. To Amazon, to politicians, to the billionaire Epstein class, we are labor cost. We are quotas. We are disposable. And the moment your body breaks down, they'll step over you, replace you, and keep the conveyor belt moving. So no, this rant isn't just about Frank. It's about every one of us still being told to sacrifice our health, our dignity, and sometimes even our lives, also shareholders can squeeze out a few more dollars. Because in corporate America, Prime Day waits for no one. But hey, at least your package arrived on time. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you liked the video, like the video. Please subscribe so YouTube can tell you when I put out my next rant. Until next time, fuck Bezos, fuck Elon, fuck the entire billionaire greed-riddled Epstein class who will gladly grind our bones to make the cement for their doomsday bunkers and use our skin as toilet paper just as soon as their AI is ready to take the reins. Burn it down, eat the rich. Peace.